Poetry has remained a vital part of art and culture. Like other forms of literature, poetry is made to express thoughts and emotions in a creative and imaginative way. It conveys thoughts and feelings, describes a scene, or tells a story in a concentrated lyrical arrangement of words. Good day, dear learners, and welcome to another episode of Learning. For today, let us continue exploring creative writing through poetry. So our topic will focus on elements of poetry, on structure of poetry. So smile and cheer up. This is teacher Rizame. Before we go further, I will be orienting you first with the session objectives of our discussion. So at the end of the presentation, you are expected to write a short poem highlighting the structure of poetry and identify the various elements, techniques, and literary devices in specific forms of poetry. As I have mentioned a while back, our focus is on structure of poetry. One significant way to analyze a poem is by looking into the stanza structure and the form of the poem. Generally speaking, structure refers to the overall organization of lines and or the conventional patterns of sound. However, various modern poems may not have particular structure. So let's deal first with stanza structure. When we talk about stanza, it refers to series of lines grouped together and separated by a space from other stanzas. Okay, so meaning they correspond to a paragraph in an essay. Identifying the stanza is done by counting the number of lines. So let's just have a quick recall of what is line means. When we talk about line, it is a group of words that goes from the left to the right. So later on, I will be showing you what lines are. Okay, so the following are some of the terms used to refer to the number of stanzas. Okay, so when we have only one line in a stanza, it is called monostic. When we have two lines in a stanza, okay, it is called couplet. Okay, 3 lines, tercet, 4 lines, quatrain, 5 lines, cinquain. Okay, for 6 lines, it is called sestet. So it is also sometimes called sexain. Okay, for 7 lines, it is called septet. And lastly, for 8 lines, it is called octave. Okay, so I have here an example of a stanza. Okay, so I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them some. I am. Okay, so as I mentioned a while back, when we talk about line, it is a group of words that goes from left to the right. So as you can see, I do not like green eggs and ham. Okay, are group of words that goes from the left to the right. So that is already a one line. Okay, so this stanza consists of 2 lines. Hence, the stanza is called couplet. Okay, I hope that is clear. Okay, next one is on form. So in many cases, a poem may not have specific lines or stanza and metrical pattern. However, it can still be labeled according to its form or style. So here, we will discuss the 3 most common types of poetry according to form, and these are lyric, descriptive, and narrative. So we will also include other popular types of poetry here. First type of form is on lyric poetry. When we talk about lyric poetry, It is any poem with one speaker, not necessarily the poet, who expresses strong thoughts and feelings. So most poems, especially modern ones, are lyric poems. So the types of lyric poetry include ode, elegy, and sonnet. Okay, let's talk about what an ode first. Okay, so an ode is a lyric poem that praises an individual, an idea, or an event. So the length is usually moderate, the subject is serious, the style is elevated, and the stanza pattern is elaborate. So in ancient Greece, odes were originally accompanied by music. In fact, the word ode comes from the Greek word eidin, which means to sing or to dance. Okay. An example of ode is the Ode to the West Wind by Percy Bysshe Shelley. So this is the passage of the Ode to the West Wind. Okay. Next type of form is elegy. Okay. Elegy is written with a purpose to mourn the dead. So it usually begins by reminiscing about the dead person, then weeps for the reason of death, and then resolves the grief by concluding that death leads to immortality. So an elegy has no set stanza or metrical pattern. It often uses apostrophe as a literary technique. So an example of elegy is an excerpt from Walt Whitman's "O Captain, My Captain." So here is a passage of the excerpt from Walt Whitman's "O Captain, My Captain." So as you can see, it is written following the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Next type of form is on sonnet. So when we talk about a sonnet, it is a lyric poem consisting of 14 lines, and in the English version, it is usually written in iambic pentameter. Take note of that. It is written in iambic pentameter. Okay, so a sonnet has three basic kinds. These are Italian Petrarchan sonnet, Shakespearean sonnet, and Spenserian sonnet. Okay, so Italian or Petrarchan sonnet is the first type of a sonnet. So when we talk about Italian or Petrarchan sonnet, okay, it consists of an octave 8 lines and a sestet 6 lines. By the way, okay, Italian or Petrarchan sonnet is named after Petrarch, an Italian Renaissance poet. Okay? So, yon. And it tends to divide the thought into two parts, which are argument and conclusion. So, the rhyming pattern of Italian Petrarchan sonnet is ABBA, ABBA, CD, EC, DE, or some accepted sestet such as CD, CC, DC, CDD, CDE, or CD, CD, CD. Okay. So the question is, how are we going to identify the rhyming scheme or the rhyming pattern of a poem? Okay, so before we talk about this passage, let's recall first what rhyming words are. Okay, so when we talk about rhyming words, these are words that have the same ending sound. So, where do we usually find rhyming words in poems? So, they are found at the end of lines in poems. Okay, so let's go back to this example. As you can see, there are underlined words, okay, in every line. Okay, so take a look at the ending part of every line. Okay, so let's figure out its rhyming scheme. So let's take a look with spent, wide, hide, bent. So spent and bent have the same sound. That is why we label them with letter A. While wide and hide has different sound as to the sound which we labeled with letter A. So let's write letter B beside it. So we have now the rhyming scheme A, B, B, A. So that's it. So it goes with the other lines. So present, chide, denied, prevent. Present and prevent has the same sound. So A, A. Chide, denied, B, B. Okay. So as you can see, it has a rhyming scheme or rhyming pattern A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, C, D, E, C, D, E. Okay, I hope that is clear. Next one is the Shakespearean sonnet. So, Shakespearean sonnet consists of 3 quatrains and a concluding couplet. Okay, so the final couplet is the summary. And the rhyming pattern is A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. So, here is an example of a Shakespearean sonnet written by William Shakespeare, of course. Okay, so we have here A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. Okay. Next type of sonnet is the Spenserian sonnet. So, Spenserian sonnet is divided into 3 quatrains or segments of 4 lines followed by a rhyming couplet. And the rhyming pattern is usually A, B, A, B, B, C, B, C, C, D, C, D, and E, E. Okay, so here is an example of Spenserian sonnet by Edmund Spenser. So as you can see, it has a rhyming pattern A, B, A, B, B, C, B, C, C, D, C, D, E, E. Okay, so those are the types of sonnet. Next one is on narrative poetry. Okay, when we talk about narrative poetry, it is a poem that tells a story. Its structure resembles the plot line of a story. So meaning, the introduction of conflict and characters, rising action, climax, and the denouement. So, narrative poetry has common types. These are ballad, epic, and descriptive poetry. So let's take a look with ballad first. When we talk about ballad, it is a narrative poem that has a musical rhythm and can be sung. So, a ballad is usually organized into quatrains or cinquains. So, it has a simple rhythm structure. So, ballad tells the tales of ordinary people. So, I have here an example of a ballad which is entitled Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. So, here it is. Next is on epic. Epic is a long narrative poem in elevated style recounting the deeds of a legendary or historical hero. So I know that you are familiar with this type of narrative poetry. So here are examples of epic. So that's it. Now, let's proceed with descriptive poetry. When we talk about descriptive poetry, it is a poem that describes the world that surrounds the speaker. So, it uses elaborate imagery and adjectives. While emotional, it is more outward focused than lyric poetry, which is more personal and introspective. So, here is an example of descriptive poetry. From William Wordsworth's I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. So, that's it. So we also have other forms of poetry. We have haiku. Okay, haiku has an unrhymed verse having 3 lines. So, a tercet. And usually 5, 7, 5 syllables respectively. Okay, so it is usually considered a lyric poem. So here is an example of a haiku. Okay, A World of Dew by Kobayashi Isa. So a world of dew, and within every dewdrop, a world of struggle. Okay, as you have noticed, this haiku has 3 lines. Okay, and it has 5, 7, 5 syllables. So the first line contains 5 syllables. Okay, the second line contains 7 syllables. Okay, lastly, the last line contains 5 syllables. Okay, let's proceed with Limerick. Okay, or Limerick. So it has a very structured poem, usually humorous and composed of 5 lines. So again, 5 lines is cinquain. Okay, so the rhyming pattern of this one is A, A, B, B, A. So the beat must be anapestic. When we talk about anapestic, weak, weak, strong. So with 3 feet in lines. 1, 2, and 5, and 2 feet in lines 3 and 4. So Limerick class is usually a narrative poem based upon a short and often ribald anecdote. So I have here an example of Limerick, a poem by Dixon Lanier Merritt. So here it is. So that ends our discussion. Thank you for listening. I hope you have learned something today. Have you learned something today?